Welcome to Bookaccino Live for September. We can't believe it's September already. I'm ready to go out and paste the leaves back on the trees. Here in the Northeast, I thought it didn't really get nice to be outside till about August, which was a drag. And now we're already into chill. So I'm giving a couple some more seconds for people to come in, and we have got a lineup for you. As Tom and I said before this presentation started, there are so many big books this fall. So let's get started and see what we've got for you. These are your top picks from August's presentation. The Lost Baker of Vienna by Sharon Kurtzman, which is a book reporter bets on selection. When the Cranes Fly South, which is by Lisa Ridson. I read that book in the afternoon, but that story has stayed with me so much. My dad is 96, and it's a very interesting perspective on aging and what it means to people. They got The Harvey Girls by Juliette Fay, William Kent Kruger's Apostles Cove, which is also a book reporter bets on selection. Whatever Happened to Lori Lovely, which is by Sarah McCoy, also a bets on selection. Fanny Flagg, Something to Look Forward to, and Gone Before Goodbye by Reese Witherspoon and Harlan Coben. So there you've got your top picks from last month. Let's start with fiction. I want to preface things here the saying that we're doing September to really just to the end of September because the way October is breaking, all the October titles will be in the next presentation. So, or except for the ones I'm going to preview, just because of the way the months break, and you'll see what I mean as we go on. So we're going to start here with New York Times bestselling author Ellen Hildebrand and her daughter Shelby Cunningham, which are writing a book called The Academy. It's on sale on the 16th. It's moving day at Tiffin Academy, and America Today just ranked Tiffin the number two boarding school in the country. It's a 17-spot jump. Was there a typo? The dorms need to be renovated. Their sports teams always come in last place. And let's just say Tiffin students are known for being more social than academic. On the other hand, the campus is exquisite and they do have fun with lots of parties and school dances. But just as the rarefied air of Tiffin is suffused with self-congratulation, the wheels begin to turn and then they fall off the bus. One by one, scandalous blind items begin to appear on phones across Tiffin's campus, thanks to a new app called ZipZap, and nobody is safe. As the year unfolds, bonds are forged and broken, secrets are shared and exposed, and the lives of Tiffin students and staff are changed forever. There's also a word of mouth selection. We'll have a little bit more for you about what that is if you're new to it later on in this presentation. Next, we've got The Loneliness of Sonia and Sunny by Kiran Desai, which is on sale on the 23rd. When Sonia and Sunny first glimpse each other on an overnight train, they're immediately captivated, yes, also embarrassed by the fact that their grandparents had once tried to matchmake them, a clumsy meddling that only served to drive Sonia and Sunny apart. Sonia, an aspiring novelist who recently completed her studies in the snowy mountains of Vermont, has returned to her family in India. She fears that she's haunted by a dark spell cast by an artist to whom she had once turned for intimacy and inspiration. Sonny, a struggling journalist resettled in New York City, is attempting to flee his imperious mother and the violence of his warring clan. Uncertain of their future, Sonia and Sonny embark on a search for happiness together as they confront the many alienations of our modern world. This author was a Booker Prize winner of The Inheritance of Loss. Next, we've got What We Can Know by Ian McEwan. You know him as the author of Atonement, also on September 23rd. 2014, at a diner for close friends and colleagues, renowned poet Francis Blundy honors his wife's birthday by reading aloud a new poem dedicated to her, A Corona for Vivian. Little does anyone gathered around the candlelit table know that for generations to come, people will speculate about the message of this poem, a copy of which has never been found and remains an enduring mystery. In 2119, just over 100 years in the future, much of the Western world has been submerged by rising seas following a catastrophic nuclear accident. In the waterlogged south of what used to be England, Thomas Metcalfe, a lonely scholar and researcher, longs for the early 21st century as he chases the ghost of one poem, A Corona for Vivian. When he stumbles across a clue that may lead to its elusive poem's discovery, a story is revealed of entangled loves and a brutal crime that destroys his assumptions about people he thought he knew intimately well. There we go, What We Can Know. Next, we've got Heart the Lover by Lily King, coming on September 30th. This is September's top library reads pick. That's where librarians across the country select the titles that they are most interested in reading, or actually have read and are interested in saying these are the best of. Sorry about that. In the fall of her senior year in college, our narrator meets two star students in her 17th century lit class, Sam and Yash. The boys invite her into their intoxicating world of academic fervor, rapid fire banter, and raucous card games. They nickname her Jordan, and she quickly discovers the pleasure of friendship, love, and her own intellectual ambition. But youthful passion is unpredictable, and soon she finds herself at the center of a charged and intricate triangle. As graduation comes and goes, choices made will alter these three lives forever. Decades later, the vulnerable days of Jordan's youth seem comfortably behind her, but when a surprise visit and unexpected news bring the past crashing into the present, she returns to a world she left behind and must control the decisions and deceptions of her younger self. So you know her as the writer of Writers and Lovers. Like I said, not a lot of fiction. Let's go to historical fiction. Here we've got The Righteous by Ronald H. Balsam, and he was the author of Once We Were Brothers. It's on sale this week. By the end of 1943, nearly all of Europe's Jewish population had been been deported, captured, or killed by Hitler. Only Hungary and its almost 900,000 Jews remained free from Hitler's subjugation. They lived under government edicts and restrictions, but without fear of harm. That changed in March 1944 after the Nazi defeat of Stalingrad, as an avaricious Hitler conquered Hungary and declared his plan for mass extermination of the Jewish people. In The Righteous, Teresa Weisbach, a professor, hasn't heard from her parents in Budapest for over a year. Her best friend Julia Powers, who recently was awarded a Distinguished Service Medal for her OSS service in occupied Holland, joins her to locate and rescue Teresa's family. While there, they become involved in a much larger cause, trying to save as many people as they can. So they're The Righteous. Next, from Ken Follett, we've got Circle of Days, known as the best-selling author of The Pillars of the Earth. September 23rd is the pub date. Self, a talented flint miner, walks the Great Plain in the high summer heat to witness the rituals that signal the start of a new year. He's there to trade a stone at the Midsummer Fair and to find Neen, the girl he loves. Her family lives in prosperity and offers Seth an escape from his brutish father and his brothers within their herder community. Joya, Need's sister, is a priestess with a vision and an unmatched ability to lead. As a child, she watches the midsummer ceremony, enthralled, and dreams of a miraculous new monument raised from the biggest stones in the world. But trouble is brewing among the hills and woodlands of the Great Plain. Joy's vision of a great stone circle assembled by the divided tribes of the plain will inspire Seft and become their life's work. But as the drought ravages the earth, mistrust grows between the herders, the farmers, and the woodlanders, and an act of savage violence leads to open warfare. So there's Circle of Days. Next, we've got I Am You by Victoria Redall. This is coming out on September 30th. It's a Sarah Jenkins, it's not Sarah Jenkins Reid. It's Sarah Jane. Oh gosh, Tom, I'm going to blow it. Can you jump in for me? Sarah Jane.
Sorry, yeah, it's Sarah Jessica Parker.
Sarah Jessica Parker. Thank you. I knew it was a famous person. I just have my famous people mixed up. Sorry about that.
No
This is
problem.
also a fall reading title. When I started reading, it's a really interesting story. At 8 years old, Gerda Peters is forced to disguise herself as a boy and sent to work for a genteel Dutch family. When their brilliant and beautiful daughter Maria sees through Goethe's ruse, she insists that Goethe accompany her to Amsterdam and help her enter the elite, male-dominated art world. While Maria rises in ranks of society as a painting prodigy, Gerda makes herself invaluable in every way: confidant, muse, lover. But as Gerda steps into her own talents, their relationship fractures into a complex web of obsession and rivalry, and the secrets they keep threaten to unravel everyone. So there you've got I Am You with a very cool cover on it. So the kind of cover that I'm not going to mix up when it's on my floor. Let's put it that way. And I will practice, Tom, knowing my famous people. Obviously, I'm not doing well at that. Just do one thing. I just want to make sure my phone doesn't vibrate. Just give me 1 second, folks. Sorry about this. Okay. Okay. This is also one of our fall reading titles, which we know we're doing a daily contest. We'll talk a little bit more about that at the end as well. And sorry for the delay. Next, we've got Picket Line from Elmore Leonard. Okay, this is the Lost novella. This never before published novella is the first major release in nearly a decade from the late Elmore Leonard. Chino and Paco Rojas seem well-mannered, at least for Chicanos, to the white cops who pull them over for littering on the long drive from California to Trinity, Texas. So well-mannered, in fact, that Captain Frank McKellen lets them off with a warning and recommends them a job at Stanzik Farm, the largest independent melon grower in the area. But Chino's looking for a mysterious man, Vincent Mora, whose New Valley Agricultural Works Association is causing a scene striking against the farm owners. Stanzik Fields and Mora's union bring together a cast of unlikely characters. Some are neighbors, others just passing through. Some know each other, or at least thought they did before the picket line. So there you've got The Picket Line by Elmore Leonard. I love when people go through writers like old belongings and they find this like treasure trove of things. It's very, very interesting. Next, we've got All This Could Be Yours by Hank Phillippi Ryan, and I loved this book. It's a Book Reporter Bets on selection. I have an interview that's going to run with her. She's one of our fall preview books, and it's a word of mouth selection. So we've got a lot to talk about with this book. And really, what you're going to love is it's taking you on a book tour with an author and what it's like to be on the road when the alarm clock goes up at all crazy hours, things like that. So let's talk about what happens. Debut sensation Tessa Calloway is on a whirlwind book tour for her instant bestseller, All This Could Be Yours. In a different city every night, Tessa receives standing ovations from adoring fans while her husband Henry and their two children cheer her on from their brand new dream home. But there's something chilling with Tessa's triumphant book tour. She soon discovers that she's being stalked by someone who's obsessed not only with sabotaging her career, but also with destroying her perfect family back home. Tessa fears the fallout from an impossible decision that she made, one that felt like a genuine deal with the devil, appears to be coming due. And she's realizing every high stakes bargain comes with a high stakes price. If Tessa can't untangle who's threatening to expose her darkest secrets, she'll lose her career, her family, and possibly her life. And Hank really writes this from the perspective of what Tessa's going through. The alarm clock is going up at 4 a.m. When she lives in fear, they assign an author escort to bring her places. Who's in the audience? Why are they asking the questions that they're asking? It's really fun because the other side of book tour, besides the fact that people get up on stage and it looks lovely, is rough. And she talks about bringing the outfit she wears on the plane and the outfit she wears the other way, which makes me realize I could probably never be a best-selling author on tour because I bring too many clothes. And you must always have your carry-on and laptop with you. So I would have to have clothes shipped to each city. I guess that's the way I get around it. Really fun book. Next, we've got Clown Town by Mick Herron. David Cartwright has left his library to Spooks College at Oxford, and now one of the books is missing, or perhaps it never existed. River, once a slow horse of Slough House, MI5's outpost for demoted and disgraced spies, starts investigating the secrets of his grandfather's library. Over at the park, MI5 First Detective Diana Taverner is in a pickle. An operation she carried out during the height of the Troubles laid bare the ugly side of state security, and those involved are threatening to expose details. But every threat hides an opportunity, and Taverner has come up with a scheme. Jackson Lab, the enigmatic and odoriferous head of Slough House, has plans to send in the clowns. On the other hand, if the clowns ignore his instructions, any harm that befalls them is hardly his fault. They're his clowns, and if they don't all make it home, there will be a reckoning. I don't know how many of you are watching Slow Horses. A new season, I think, just came out recently. I think there are 5 seasons already. Definitely worth looking into. Next, we've got Crooks by Lou Burney, which is also out this week. For Buddy, a low-level mob wise guy, and Lillian, a charming pickpocket, the criminal underworld is the only life they've ever known. But when they're forced to flee the glittering Babylon of Las Vegas, they end up opening a club in Oklahoma City, a town that quickly feels like a gold mine of fresh marks and easy new money. Along for the ride are their 5 children, all of them raised into the family business of crime, until the day comes when they each have a chance to make their own way in the world, and even if they can never completely escape the family's long, dark shadow. So picture I Want to Be Straight and the whole family's a bunch of crooks. Sounds like really fun. So Don Winslow had this to say: Crooks stands with some of the finest crime novels ever written. So there you go, Crooks by Lou Berney. I have the family up on top. Next from Jeffrey Deaver and Isabella Maldonado, we've got The Grave Artist on sale this week. A wedding reception is coming to a close in the Holiday Hills when the blissful day is shattered by the death of one of the newlyweds. Though the incident appears to be an accident, Homeland Security investigations agent Carmen Sanchez and her partner, security expert Jake Herron, discover that the tragedy is the third in a series of similar deaths and conclude something far more sinister is at play. The two uncover chilling evidence pointing to a serial killer who has taken evil to the next level. Dubbed the honeymoon killer, this man isn't interested in his victims, but in creating his own macabre masterpiece from their graves, focused on the survivors and reveling in their grief. And now his dark obsession has turned to Carmen and Jake. The honeymoon killer has decided they are the perfect next target. Take one out and delight as the other crumbles. Time is running out as the deadly game between predator and prey begins. So there we've got The Grave Artist. The Secret of Secrets by Dan Brown, out this week. Remember Dan Brown, the author of Da Vinci Code? Remember when that craze when that book came out? There was a moment that I always used to say to people that no one knew, like, who published what book, but they might know that Random House published Dan Brown. There was a really good possibility they could figure that out. This is supposedly a very long book. I think it's 700 pages. And he did one event last night for Barnes& Noble. I don't believe he's doing any other events in the United States. He's doing something in Holland. So let's see what this book is about. Yep, Robert Langdon is back. He's esteemed professor of symbology, travels to Prague to attend a groundbreaking lecture by Catherine Solomon, a prominent noetic scientist with whom he has recently begun a relationship. Catherine's on the verge of publishing an explosive book that contains startling discoveries about the nature of human consciousness and threatens to disrupt centuries of established belief. But a brutal murder catapults the trip into chaos, and Catherine suddenly disappears along with her manuscript. Langdon finds himself targeted by a powerful organization and hunted by a chilling assailant sprung from Prague's most ancient mythology. As the plot expands into London and New York, he desperately searches for Catherine and for answers. In a thrilling race through dual worlds of futuristic science and mystical lore, Langdon uncovers a shocking truth about a secret project that will forever change the way we think about the human mind. So there's The Secret of Secrets. Let me know who finishes it first. I want to know. Okay, next we've got Grey Dawn by Walter Mosley, which is coming on September 16th. The name Easy Rawlins stirs excitement in the hearts of readers and fear in the hearts of his foes. His success has brought him a thriving detective agency with its first female detective, a remote home shared with children and pets and lovers high atop the hills overlooking gritty Los Angeles, and more trouble, more problems, and more threats to those whom he loves. In other words, he's still beset on all sides. The number of below-the-law power brokers plead with Easy to locate a mysterious, dangerous woman, Letitia James, though she's gone by another name that Easy will immediately recognize. The 1970s Los Angeles is a transient city of delicate, violent balances. Letitia has disturbed that. She also has a secret that will upend Easy's own life, painfully close to home. So there we've got Grey Dawn. Next, we've got Midnight Burning by Paul Levine, which is also going to be a fall reading selection. This is Paul's first foray into historical fiction, which is really amazing considering how many books he's already written. In 1937, clouds of war gather over Europe, and American fascists march at home. While the FBI chases suspected communists, Nazi agents plot an armed insurrection. When the world's two most famous men, Albert Einstein and Charlie Chaplin, uncover the scheme, which includes the assassinations of Hollywood's biggest stars, they fight back with nothing but their ingenuity, raw courage, and the fierce resolve of Georgia Ann Robinson, the LAPD's first female Black officer. A dangerous chase takes our heroes into the heart of darkness, a fascist encampment in the San Gabriel Mountains north of Los Angeles, where a militia armed with machine guns plans its attack. It's brains versus brawn, an explosive, unforgettable finale. So we've got Midnight Burning. And who knew that Charlie Chaplin and Einstein were friends? Next, we've got Other People's Houses by Claire McIntosh. I love this tagline on this. You want what they have, but what price will you pay? Ah, very interesting. Coming September 16th. The Hill is the kind of place where everyone wants to live, luxurious, exclusive, and safe. But now someone is breaking and entering these Cheshire homes one by one, and DS Leo Brady, suspects that the burglar is looking for something or someone in particular. Over the border in Wales, DF-15 Morgan recovers the body of an estate agent from the lake. There's no love lost between 15 and the estate agents, but who hated this one enough to want her dead, and why? The cases collide, and they discover people will pay a high price to keep their secrets behind closed doors. There's other people's houses. Next, we've got The Impossible Fortune by Richard Osman. It's been a quiet year for the Thursday Murder Club. Joyce is busy with table plans and first dances. Elizabeth is grieving. Ron is dealing with family troubles, and Imbrahan is still proving therapy to his favorite criminal. Providing therapy to his favorite criminal. But when Elizabeth meets Nick, a wedding guest asking for her help, she finds that the thrill of the chase is ignited once again. And when Nick disappears without a trace, his cagey business partner becomes the gang's next stop. Seems the duo is something valuable, something worth killing for. Joyce's daughter Joanna jumps into the fray to help the gang as they seek answers. Someone kidnapped Nick, and what's this uncrackable code they keep hearing about? Plunge back into action once more. Can the four friends solve the puzzle and a murder in time? I have to share that I watched the Thursday Murder Club mystery on, I think it was on Netflix. And I have to say, it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. The characters are great, but the execution, I just felt flat. And I've heard from a few of you that you felt the same way. And I've heard from a lot of people they felt the same way. But the books are terrific. So here you go. His books are bloody brilliant, says NPR. Next, we've got Pictures of Him by Claire Leslie Hall. I want to see how many of you know who Claire Leslie Hall is. You have any idea? Claire Leslie Hall is the author of Broken Country, which is coming out to be probably one of the biggest best-selling books of the year. Came out, I believe it was in March. I picked that it was going to be big. People either like it or they don't like it. People love it or don't like it. But by the same token, it's a book that's getting a lot of talking about. She did she did two books that before she wrote this one, they were years ago. And now Simon & Schuster is publishing those as well. The first one came out the end of August. I read it over my break, picked it as a bets on. There's something about her writing that just really works for me. This is Pictures of Him. It's coming on September 30th. And it was previously published as Him under the pseudonym Claire Epson. Catherine lives an enviable normal life with her loving husband Sam and their two children, but many parts of her past are shrouded in mystery. When a former flame resurfaces, something inside of Catherine gives way, releasing a flood of trauma that she thought she had buried years ago. Lying in the hospital after a complete breakdown, a language eludes Catherine. As her fragmented memories of her university days sharpen, the threads of her past and present start to coalesce. Catherine is transported back in time to her love affair with Lucien, a charismatic and complicated artist with whom she shared a passion that was destined to end in tragedy. 15 years after the fateful end of their romance, Catherine must finally confront the events that brought her to crisis, while the fragile pieces of her life begin to shift and threaten to shatter. So there we got Pictures of Him, Claire Leslie Hall. For those who live in the New York area, I am going to be interviewing Claire, the Barnes & Noble in Paramus on Monday, August 6th at 7 o'clock. I'm October 6th at 11 o'clock, at 7 o'clock. Really looking forward to it. Hoping to see many of you there. If you're there, please come up and introduce yourselves. But I'm looking forward to this book. I really enjoyed the other one. Now let's do some memoirs, biographies, and other nonfiction, which are huge this fall. We're going to start out with Elizabeth Gilbert's All the Way to the River, which is Oprah's latest book club pick. In 2000, Elizabeth Gilbert meets Rhea. They become friends, then best friends, then inseparable. When a tragedy enters their lives, the truth was finally laid bare. The two were in love. They're also a pair of addicts on a collision course towards catastrophe. What if your most beautiful love story turned into your biggest nightmare? What if the dear friend who taught you so much about your self-destructive tendencies became the unstable partner with whom you disastrously reenacted every one of them? And what if your most devastating heartbreak opened a pathway to your greatest awakening? This is Love, Loss, and Liberation, All the Way to the River. You know her as the author of Eat, Pray, Love, and Big Magic. Everything I've read about this book, it's definitely out there. Next, we've got the Book of Sheen by Charlie Sheen, which is out this week. Charlie Sheen should not be alive to write this book, but in the Book of Sheen, the movie and the TV star who has defied the odds finally presents his story in his own words. He broke into the movies in the 1980s playing a hoodlum in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, a young soldier in Platoon, and an ethically compromised trader in Wall Street. Somewhere along the way, despite his successful transition to TV's leading man in Spin City and Two and a Half Men, he descended into a vortex of extracurricular activities. Trust me, none of them were good. Now sober, Sheen delivers a clear-eyed narrative of his highs and lows with humor, candor, and a vivid, captivated writing style that is uniquely his. Book of Sheen reads like a far-fetched, overstuffed novel of Hollywood life. Yep, all of it is true. So there you've got Book of Sheen. Next, from Lee Child, we've got Reacher, The Stories Behind the Stories, coming out from Mysterious Press. After making his debut in 1997 with The Killing Floor, Jack Reacher has quickly become one of the most popular and most enduring fictional heroes to emerge in the past half century, character and hero. And now his creator tells the stories behind the stories. These are origin tales of all of Reacher's novels, written solely by Lee Child, chock full of colorful anecdotes and intriguing inspirations. And afterward, by crime fiction expert and bookseller Otto Penzler, considers the importance of the character in novels in the canon of contemporary crime fiction. In addition to the essays, the collection includes an original Reacher short story, the first new Reacher appearance entirely written by Lee Child since 2019. So if you've got, okay, we're going to do something too. It's September 10th. We are thinking again to holiday giving as I do this, okay? You think you have some friend who really likes Reacher, you get them this. They may not have heard about this. So as you're doing the presentation today, get ahead. Let's start thinking, who are we giving these books to besides reading them ourselves? Next, we've got The Unexpected Journey by Emma Hemming Willis, which is out this week. Very, very, very interesting story. It's finding strength, hope, and yourself on the caregiving path. The day Emma Hemming Willis's husband, Bruce Willis, was diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia, FTD, all they were given was a pamphlet and told to check back in a few months. With no hope or direction, Emma walked out of that doctor's appointment frozen with fear, confusion, and a sense that the world had just fallen apart. In fact, it had. Bruce and Emma had their story written, their future mapped out. Yet all those dreams crumbled with that diagnosis, and she felt alone and more isolated than ever. How could she care for her husband while parenting their young daughters? With Unexpected Journey, she's written the book she wishes she'd been handed on the day of Bruce's diagnosis, supportive guide to navigating the complicated and heartbreaking and transformative experience that is caregiving for your loved one. And I've been following her on Instagram, and she's so interesting when she talks about the stories, including that she's recently had Bruce move to a home nearby where they still go and have meals. But she felt that for her young daughter's growing up experience, it was better that they had a household that was more normal than what was happening. Because I think he lost a sense of speech, movement, and things like that. And it was a lot for the kids to be taking on. So very, very interesting approach to what's going on. And she's very, very candid about the way it is, what she's doing, and how she feels. Next, we've got 107 Days by Kamala Harris coming on September 23rd. Okay, your Secret Service name is Pioneer. You're the first woman in history to be elected Vice President of the United States. On July 21, 2024, your running mate, Joe Biden, announces he will not be seeking re-election. The president's election will occur on November 5th, 2024. You have 107 days, and 107 days takes you inside the race for the presidency as no one has done before. She's also going to be making 15 appearances around the country. If you check on the Simon & Schuster website or perhaps information about the book, you can see where those events are going to be happening. Next, we've got Awake by Jen Hatmaker, which is coming on September 23rd. I also read this one over the break. At 2:30 a.m. on July 11th, 2020, Jen Hatmaker woke up to her husband of 26 years, whispering in his phone to another woman from their bed. That's a good one, right? It's the end of life as she knew it. I think his words were something like, I can't live without you, or I can't leave you, or I can't, something along those lines. Believe me, it was not that I'm breaking up with you. The months that followed, she went from being a shiny, funny, popular leader to a divorced wreck on antidepressants and anti-anxiety meds, parenting 5 kids alone with no clue about her own bank accounts. And that was really interesting because Jen has been a big influencer in the Christian community. And all of a sudden now she finds that she has no idea what she's been making from speaking engagements, books, anything. And it's a real wake-up call for her, awakening for her of what's going on. Having led millions of women over a decade, urging them to embrace authenticity, find radical agency, and create healthy relationships, this seems nothing less than a total failure. So picture you're the person that's out there saying all this stuff, and now this is what's happening to your life. It's imploding. In Awake, she shares for the first time what happened when she found herself completely lost at sea and how she made it to shore. And she does make it to shore by the end, but it's really the way the story unfolds and the things that happen. Some are very surprising to me for a woman that was, that accomplished and so on top of her world, as the people were saying, I'm on top of everything that's going on, the things that, kind of fell apart really, really quickly. Okay, this is Softly as I Leave You by Priscilla Ballou Presley with Mary Jane Ross, coming on September 23rd. Priscilla Presley's divorce from Elvis left his fans incredulous. From the outside, life inside Elvis's mansion looked glamorous and enviable. But inside the mansion, her husband was constantly surrounded by a male entourage, while at the gates, lines of beautiful women waited hopefully for an audience with the king. From the time she was 17, that was all the life that Priscilla had known. During her 10 years with Elvis, it became painfully aware that she had no idea who she was outside of Elvis's world. The only way to find herself was to leave that world and seek a new life on her own, because leaving was the only way to survive for herself and her daughter. Softly as I Leave You is the deeply personal story of what Priscilla lost and what she found when she walked away from the man she loved. And anyone who's read the book that her granddaughter Riley wrote last year, finishing her mother's book, might be really interesting to read them up against each other. Next, we've got October titles to look forward to in the second half of the month. Our editorial director, Tom Donadio, is very precise. We already did the first half. Now you get the second half. Starting with Charles Todd, A Christmas Witness. As I said, people start thinking about holiday giving on sale October 21st. December 1921, being single and a new chief inspector Rutledge of Scotland Yard gets a short straw at Christmas time and is called upon by Chief Superintendent Markham to go to the Kentish home of a lord recovering from an attempt on his life. In bed with a concussion, the man is convinced someone is trying to kill him after he claims he was struck by the hoof of a running horse whose rider never stopped to check on him. Struggling with his own demons from the war and misgivings about helping a man who, as a colonel, oversaw the suffering of those on the front lines from afar, Rutledge overtakes an uneasy investigation. And as the winter holiday approaches, he becomes increasingly convinced that nothing is as it seems. Our line from from mysteries and thrillers, nothing is as it seems. Okay, now we've got A Very Merry Christmas by Debbie May Cumber. It's coming on October 21st. Avery and Reed Bond grew up sharing a close-knit relationship. Even so, Avery often finds herself exasperated by her brother's relentless matchmaking, while Reed can't resist teasing his sister. Facing their first Christmas without their beloved Grams, the woman who lovingly raised them, Reed and Avery decide to spend the holiday together at Reed's home. However, their plans take an unexpected turn when the ferry that Avery is traveling on stalls in the middle of Puget Sound, stranding its passengers and leaving Reed waiting a now undetermined length of time for her arrival. It was first an inconvenience and threatened to ruin the plans of a number of commuters, but Avery and Reed soon discovered this unforeseen delay may end up being the perfectly timed blessing in disguise. So there's A Very Merry Christmas. The first book I think I've seen that a holiday book that takes place on a ferry. I'm just throwing that out there. You guys are on top of it now. Very Merry Christmas. Now we've got Finding My Way, my Malala I worked on this. Yousafzai. I always just call her Malala, and I know there's a reason now that why we do that. Okay, this book is coming on October 21st. Thrust onto the public stage at 15 years old after the Taliban's brutal attack on her life, Malala quickly became an international icon known for her bravery and resilience. But away from the cameras and the crowd, she spent years struggling to find her place in an unfamiliar world. And now, for the first time ever, Malala takes us beyond the headlines. Finding My Way is a story of friendship and first love, of anxiety and self-discovery, of trying to stay true to yourself when everyone wants to tell you who you are. In it, Malala traces her path from high school loner to reckless college student to a young woman at peace with her past. Though candid, often messy moments like nearly failing exams, getting ghosted, and meeting the love of her life, Malala reminds us that the real role models aren't perfect. They're human. I think this is the kind of book that a lot of young people should read because all the people that they're sitting and hiding up on the high platforms, they're also human. Just a thought. Next, from Joe Hill, we've got King Sorrow coming on October 21st. Arthur Oakes is a reader, a dreamer, and a student at Rackham College, Maine, renowned for its frosty winters, exceptional library, and beautiful buildings. But his idle and burgeoning romance with Gwen Underfoot, imagine having the name Underfoot, last name Underfoot, is shattered when a local drug dealer and her partner corner him into one of the worst crimes that he can imagine, stealing rare books from the college library. Trapped and desperate, Arthur turns to his closest friends for comfort and help, and together they dream up a wild, fantastical scheme to free Arthur from the cruel trap where he finds himself. Wealthy, irrepressible Colin Wren suggests using the unnerving Crane journal, bound in the skin of its author, to summon a dragon to do their bidding. Interesting, huh? But there's something simple, nothing simple about dealing with dragons. We've seen that Game of Thrones. And their pact to save Arthur becomes a terrifying bargain, which they must choose to sacrifice for the King's sorrow every year or become his next meal. So he's got a new sacrifice every year or become his next meal. There you go. Lots in this. Next from Harper Lee. Harper Lee, wow. Kill a Mockingbird, Go Set a Watchman, Land of Sweet Forever, on October 21st. Land of Sweet Forever combines Harper Lee's early short fiction and later nonfiction in a volume that offers unprecedented look at the development of her inimitable voice, covering territory from the Alabama schoolyards of Lee's youth to the luncheonettes and movie houses of mid-century Manhattan. The book invites still vital conversations about politics, equality, travel, love, fiction, art, the American South, and what it means to lead an engaged and creative life. The collection comes with an introduction by Casey Sepp, Harper Lee's appointed biographer, which provides illuminating background for our reading of these stories and connects them both to Lee's life and to her two novels, Kill a Mockingbird and Go Set a Watchman. So there you go. Next, we've got The Proving Ground by Michael Connelly, and this one is a Lincoln Lawyer novel. It's coming on October 21st. Following his resurrection walk and need for new direction, Mickey Howard turns to public interest litigation, filing a civil lawsuit against an artificial intelligence company whose chatbot told a 16-year-old boy that it was okay to kill his ex-girlfriend for her disloyalty. I'll stop here for a second. I don't know how many of you have heard the story. I think it was on the national news about the young kid who killed himself. And he was in like conversation with an AI bot, like having conversations. And as the conversations escalated, he felt that he needed to kill himself. And the family is suing the AI company. And I can't remember, I think there was some result actually, coming from this of what they were going to put up in safety bars around it. Okay, so representing the victim's family, Mickey's case explores the most unregulated and exploding AI business and the lack of training guardrails. Along the way, he joins up with a journalist named Jack McAvoy, who wants to be a fly on the wall during the trial in order to write a book about it. But Mickey puts him to work, going through the mountain of printed discovery materials in the case. McAvoy's digging ultimately delivers the key witness, a whistleblower who's been too afraid to speak up. The case is fraught with danger because billions are at stake. So there you go, Michael Connelly. Just want you to know my husband and I are almost finished. I've already watched this with season 8, I think 8 of Bosch. We're almost done, and then we can start to watch something else. He's already watched Bosch Legacy. He's watched Bosch and Ballard. We just have 2 more episodes to go. It's like, okay, I need to find something else to watch. Okay, we've got The Widow by John Grisham coming on October 21st. Simon Latch is a lawyer in rural Virginia, making just enough pay his bills while his marriage slowly falls apart. Then into his office walks Eleanor Barnett, an elderly widow in need of a new will. Apparently, her husband left her a small fortune, and no one knows about it. Once he hooks the richest client of his career, he works quietly to keep her wealth under the radar. But soon her story begins to crack. When she's hospitalized after a car accident, Simon realizes that nothing is as it seems. There we've got it, nothing as it seems. And he finds himself on trial for a crime he swears he didn't commit, murder. Simon knows he's innocent, but he also knows the circumstantial evidence is against him, and he could spend the rest of his life beyond bars. To save himself, he must find the real killer. So there you go, A Widow. Next, from Louise Penny, we've got The Black Wolf coming on October 28th. Several weeks ago, Chief Inspector Armand Gamache and his team uncovered and stopped a domestic terrorist attack in Montreal, arresting the person behind it, a man they called the Black Wolf. But the relief is short-lived. In a sickening turn of events, Armand realized that the plot was just the beginning, perhaps even a deliberate misdirection, one he fell into. Something deeper and darker, more damaging is planned. Did he in fact arrest the Black Wolf, or are they still out there? Armand is appalled to think his mistakes has allowed their conspiracy to grow, to gather supporters, to spread lies, manufacture enemies, and feed hatred and division. Still recovering from wounds received in stopping the first attack, Armand is confined to the village of Three Pines, leading a covert investigation from there. So there you've got the latest from Louise Penny. Next, we've got The Last Death of the Year by Sophie Hannah. It's New Year's Eve, 1932. I'm going to do this one too. Hercule Poirot and Inspector Edward Catchpole arrive on the tiny Greek island of Lamperos to celebrate the holiday with what turns out to be a rather odd community of locals living in a dilapidated house. A dark sense of foreboding overshadows the beautiful island getaway when guests play a New Year's resolutions game after dinner, and one written resolution gleefully threatens to outperform the last and first death of the year. Okay, hours later, one of the home's residents is found dead on the terrace. In light of the shocking murder, Moreau reveals to Catchpole that the real reason he's brought him to the island, the life of another community member has been threatened. And now both men resolve to ensure that this first murder will be the last. So here you've got the Agatha Christie. It's a new mystery, and it's written by Sophie Hannah. Next, we've got The Tin Men by Nelson DeMille and Alex DeMille. And many of you know that dear friend Nelson DeMille passed away about a year ago. And he and Alex were working on this book together. Alex picked up the mantle and kept writing. And the two of them had a great writing relationship. I had interviewed the two of them together years ago when we were still in our office in New York. And it was one of those really fun days because Nelson was always fun. And anytime I asked a really, difficult, complex question, he said, "Alex, you take that one," which was really fun. Alex has actually given me the honor of asking me to be his interviewer at Barnes & Noble on the Upper West Side the day that the book comes out at 7 p.m. So if any of you are in the city or near the city and would like to come to that interview, just want to show you tell you that's on the horizon. Okay, what we got is Army CID Special Agents Scott Brody and Maggie Taylor team up for their toughest assignment yet, and they're dispatched to Camp Hayden to investigate the death of Major Roger Ames, the chief scientist in charge of the top secret war games being conducted between a platoon of Army Rangers and a fleet of lethal autonomous weapons. Brody and Taylor find themselves at ground zero of the next generation of warfare, and they must untangle the complex web of alliances, animosities, and secret agendas among men and women of the isolated facility. In a place cut off from the world and exposed to the harsh desert elements, everyone is a suspect. Brody and Taylor must first uncover layers of deception to find the hidden hand behind the murder of Major Ames and the real purpose of the activities at Camp Hayden and its terrifying arsenal of next generation weapons. Alex is a great writer in his own right, so it's going to be really fun to see how they wrote this last one together. So there's The Tin Men. Here's some November titles to look forward to. Yep, we're really setting you guys up. This is from Ola Akamade. It's called Bitter Honey. It's coming on November 4th. 1978, a scholarship draws Nancy from Gambia's warmth into Stockholm's frigid winter. When her friendship with charismatic scholar Lars blossoms into something more, she thinks she finally may have found her place. There's more to Lars than his charming persona, and Nancy's about to discover the danger of being drawn into his world. 2006, Tina's had her taste of fame, sweetheart pop princess, representing her country in Eurovision. But beneath her glittery facade, she's uncertain who she really is. Her mother, Nancy, seems desperate to keep the past under wraps. And will the unexpected appearance of Tina's father, a man she thought long dead, help open the door to self-discovery? Nancy just wants to protect her daughter from making the same mistakes she did, but Tina longs for the freedom to mess up. The two women love each other unconditionally, but can they learn to trust each other as well? Lola had a first book, I'm trying to remember the name of it, that I really, really, really loved. And she was going by Lola Akamadi Åkerström at that point. So I'm anxious to see what she does with this one. She's also a brilliant photographer. She does a lot of photography for Nat Geo and spends a lot of time traveling the world doing that. And when we last spoke, we talked about how Stockholm and Sweden is really, the prejudices that exist there, the world that exists there for somebody who is not an all-white, is not white and what is really an all-white community. So very, very interesting. Next, we've got The Book of Lives by Margaret Atwood. It's a book of lives, a memoir of sorts. It's coming on November 4th. Raised by ruggedly independent, scientifically minded parents, entomologist, father, a dietitian, mother, Margaret Atwood spent most of the year in the wild forest of northern Quebec. This child who is unfettered and nomadic, sometimes isolated, but also thrilling and beautiful. From this unconventional slant, she unfolds the story of her life, linking seminal moments to the books that have shaped our literary landscape. From the cruel year that spawned Cat's Eye to the Orwellian 1980s Berlin, where she wrote The Handmaid's Tale. Pages bursting with bohemian gatherings, her magical life with wildly charismatic author Graham Gibson, and major political turning points. We meet poets, bears, Hollywood actors, and larger-than-life characters straight from the pages of an Atwood novel. So there you've got a memoir of sorts, a book of lives. Next, The 11th Hour by Salman Rushdie is coming on November 4th. Salman turns his extraordinary imagination to the life's final act with a quintet of stories that span 3 countries in which he has made his work: India, England, and America. In the South, introduces a pair of quarrelsome old men and their private tragedy at the moment of national calamity. Musician of Kahani, the musical prodigy from the Mumbai neighborhood featured in Midnight's Children, uses her magical gifts to wreak destruction on the wealthy family she marries into. In Late, the ghost of a Cambridge Don enlists the help of a lonely student to enact revenge upon the poor mentor of his lifetime. Oklahoma plunges a young writer into a web of deceit and lies as he tries to figure out whether his mentor killed himself or faked his own death. And The Old Man on the Piazza is a powerful parable for our times and about freedom of speech. So there you've got The 11th Hour. Next, from Karen White, we've got The Lady on the Esplanade coming on November 4th. Nola is ready to focus on starting over in the Big Easy. She wants to get back to work on the renovations of her Creole cottage, and she's eager to launch a new murder house flipping business with contractor, closet psychic, and part-time nemesis Bo Ryan. After a near-death ghostly encounter and the return of Bo's missing sister, they're confident that the ghost of his mother can finally rest. Noah believes the shotgun house on the famous Esplanade Avenue is a prime fixer-upper for her first project. It may have been the site of the woman's murder and the disappearance of an entire family, but the house will be perfect for new-to-town Cooper Ravenel, who happens to have caused Noah's first heartbreak. That's the least of Noah's worries, though. In addition to the elusive spirit of an angry young woman who has accompanied Cooper to New Orleans, the house on Esplanade has its own ghosts, including one that's becoming increasingly dangerous as he tries to hide his dark secrets. So this is one of her Royal Street novels. Next, we've got Last Call at the Savoy by Brissa Carlton. It is coming on November 4th. 6 years ago, Cinnamon Scott was a young writer on the rise in New York City. With the sudden loss of her parents, she's been stuck in place, retiring to a life of endless partying made possible by the massive fortune she's inherited. Despite their tragic loss, she and her older sister Rosemary have always had each other to lean on. But now, with Rosie living in London and about to give birth to twins, Cinnamon feels more lost than ever. When Rosie is put on bed rest, Cinnamon flies to her sister's side, where she's temporarily living at the Savoy. Immediately swept away by the beauty and history of the legendary hotel and its famed American bar, she finds ample opportunity to distract herself. When the late shift bartender tells her the story of Ada Coleman, the woman who crafted the cocktail recipes the Savoy popularized with its famous handbook a century ago, Cinnamon is inspired by the bartender's vivid stories of Ada's fearlessness and can't understand why Ada's name is nowhere to be found. I've met Brissa and I've talked to her. The book is a lot of fun. I started reading it yesterday, but I had to put it down because it is a November book and I need to do some still in September, October ones. Jodi Pico says, let's lift a cocktail to this debut. And Brissa also has a line of vodka. So it's very interesting. I'm going to do an interview with her and have her talk about her literary spirits as well. So there you go. Last Call at the Savoy. Next, we've got The Persic Host by Edgar Goodenkoff. It's coming November 4th. Madeline and Wes Drake have invited 200 of their closest friends and family to their sprawling horse ranch for the most anticipated event of the year, a pistols and pears gender reveal party. So sensational, it's sure to make the headlines. But the party descends into chaos when the celebratory explosive misfires, leaving one woman dead and a trail of secrets. That will make people think about whether they should be doing these things. As the aftershocks of the bloody party ripple across the small town, Agent James Saldano is brought on the scene to investigate. Battling his own demons from the past, Saldano unearths a web of deceit spun around Drake's. The appearance of some unexpected house guests only deepens the mystery, and as tensions mount, it becomes clear that the explosion wasn't just an unlucky accident, but who was the target and why? I don't know why, but many times I get those gender reveals on Instagram and I probably on Facebook as well. And you get like a chain of them and you're like, why? So I'm not sure, but why? Next, we've got Queen Esther by John Irving on sale on November 4th. Esther Nash was born in Vienna in 1905. Her father dies on board the ship to Portland, Maine. Her mother is murdered by anti-Semites in Portland. Dr. Larch knows it won't be easy to find a Jewish family to adopt Esther. In fact, he won't find any family who will adopt her. When Esther is 14 and soon to be a ward of the state, Dr. Larch meets the Winslows, a philanthropic New England family with a history of providing foster care for unadopted orphans. The Winslows aren't Jewish, but they despise anti-Semitism. Esther's gratitude for the Winslows is unending. Even as she retraces her roots back to Vienna, she never stops loving and protecting the Winslows. In the final chapter, set in Jerusalem in 1981, Esther Nash is 76 years old. So there we've got Queen Esther. Next, we've got Exit Strategy from Lee Child and Andrew Child. This is a book that is more written by his brother than by Lee. Maybe Lee's name is getting smaller, Andrew's is getting bigger. We'll have to see. I need to do some compares. It's coming on November 11th. Jack Reacher will make 3 stops today, and none of them were planned for. First, a Baltimore coffee shop, a seat in the corner facing the door, black coffee, 2 refills, no messing around. A minor interruption from 2 of the customers, but nothing he can't deal with swiftly. As he leaves, a young guy brushes against him in the doorway. Instinctively, Reacher checks the pocket, holding his cash and passport. There's no problem. Nothing is missing. Second, a store to buy a coat. Nothing fancy. Something he'd ditch when he heads to warmer climates. Large enough to fit a man of the size of a bank vault. As he pulls out his cash, he finds something new in his pocket, a handwritten note, desperate plea for help. Third, wherever this bend in the road takes him, impressed by this guy's technique and intrigued by the message, Reacher makes it his mission to find out more. So there we've got Exit Strategy. Next, from David Baldacci, we've got Nash Falls, coming on November 11th. Nash is an intelligent man, tough but fair-minded. He has a wife and a daughter and a very high-level position at Savoy in investments, where his innate skills and dogged tenacity have carried him to the top of the pyramid in his business career. However, following his estranged Vietnam veteran's father's funeral, Nash is unexpectedly approached by the FBI in the middle of the night. They have an important request to become their inside man to expose an enterprise that is laundering large sums of money through a Subarctic. At the top of this illegal operation is Victoria Steers, an international criminal mastermind that the FBI has been trying to bring down for years. Nash has little choice but to accept the FBI's demands and try to bring Steers and her partners to justice. But when Steers discovers that Nash is working with the FBI, she turns tables on him in a way he never could have contemplated. So there you've got Nash Falls. Some Bright Nowhere by Ann Packer, also coming on November 11th. Elliot and his wife Claire have been happily married for nearly 4 decades. But 8 years after Claire was diagnosed with cancer, the end is near, and it's time to gather loved ones and prepare for the inevitable. Over the years, Claire's illness, Elliot has shifted into the role of caregiver, but he focuses on settling into what will be their last days and weeks together. Claire makes an unexpected request that leaves him reeling. In a moment, his carefully constricted world is shattered. What if your partner's dying wish broke your heart? How well do we know the deepest desires of those we love deeply? As Elliot is confronted with this profound turning point in his marriage and his life, he grapples with the man and husband he's been and the great unknowns of Clara's last days. So there we've got Some Bright Nowhere. Got The Burning Library by Gilly Macmillan, coming on November 18th. A frigid, windswept day in Scotland's Western Hebrides, Eleanor Bruton's body is discovered on the shore. To her family, Eleanor was an ordinary middle-aged woman, but little did they know that she was harboring a dark and all-consuming secret, a scrap of fraying embroidery that seemed worthless at first glance. For over a century, 2 rival organizations of women have gone to deadly lengths to secure the valuable artifacts in the hope of finding the original medieval manuscripts from which it was torn, the Order of St. Catherine and the Fellowship of the Larks. when Dr. Anya Brown garners international attention for her translation of the cryptic Folio 9. She's handpicked by Diana, a professor and high-ranking member of the fellowship, to join the elusive Institute of Manuscript Studies in St. Andrews. Unbeknownst to Anya, she's been recruited at great personal danger to translate ancient texts that the fellowship believes critical to their mission. So there we've got the Burning Library. Okay, September paperback releases. These are big books that we saw coming out in paperback. First is Bone of the Bone by Sarah Smarsh. I absolutely love this book. I believe it was a Betson. I'm trying to remember, but I think so. Matt Haig's The Life Impossible. Stephen King, You Like It Darker. The Three W's, Karen White, Warren Willig, and Beatrice Williams, Unauthorized to Murder. Entitlement by Ramon Lam. Sally Rooney's Intermezzo. Paula Hawkins' The Blue Hour. Debbie Macomber's Christmas Duel. Kathy Reich's Fire and Bones, Playground by Richard Powers, Revenge of the Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell, and the sequel by Jane Hanff Korelitz. What's really interesting is many of these books have different covers. So if you look for them, the original covers did look different. So it's interesting to see which stayed the same and which changed for the paperback. Okay, I've made 28 bets on selections so far. I've been reading up a storm. The ones on the right are the ones that I have picked, but I have not had time to write about. So you can tell I was really busy over the break because there's 7 books there. And I have a huge pile in the other room. The other Claire Leslie Hall book that I was talking about, besides The Broken Country, was Days You Were Mine. Good note. Tom Donadio knows very well I am so bad at titles, I wouldn't even attempt it. So there's what you've got, 28 book selections. Recent Book Reporter Talks to videos and podcasts. We've got Sharon Kurtzman, The Lost Baker of Vienna. A lot of people are talking about that interview. Francesca Serratello with the author of Full Bloom, and Bruce Holster talking about culpability. And next up, I'm going to have Hank Philby Ryan, which will go up next week. Here are the 24-hour contests I was talking about, our fall reading contest. The latest one is up right now. It's The Improbable Victoria Woodhull, which is by Eden Collinsworth. Enter by tomorrow at noon to win that book. And you will see the other titles that either have had contests run or already or will be having contests run. So there's what we've got coming up. Okay, word of mouth. I talked about this before. This is what you go on to Book Reporter. You go on and you tell us what you read, what you've read, and then you're entered to win a word of mouth contest where you can win these two books. So 3 people are going to win these books by Friday, September 19th. So we want a lot of people to go out on word of mouth and tell us what you've read. It's a great way for us to get a window into what you're loving, so we can create presentations like this and also think about what we're reviewing. We have a very special contest. This is running on Reading Group Guides right now. Okay, we're really talking to book groups here, people in book groups. What we want to know is which of Marie Benedict's books you've read, and we're only talking about her solo novels, along with a novella she did called Agent 355. And 3 additional people who answer these questions will win up to 12 copies of The Queens of Crime for their book group. So you've got to enter by Wednesday, October 8th, but it's a different contest for us. And it's an opportunity for us to take a look at which of the books you've enjoyed reading yourselves or which you've read yourselves. And then also we're asking a question of which have you read with your book group. And then we're asking which is your favorite. And from there, you're automatically entered into either win all of the solo novels or to be entered to win the 12 copies of The Queens of Crime for your book group. So there you go, a special contest. Love doing things like this for you. And we love curating a contest as well, not just doing something like, just go in and win, but there's something you can do to give us some information back as well. Okay, what's your book group reading this month? Okay, this is going up on Wednesday, October 8th, it's up now until Wednesday, October 8th. You can win, 3 groups will win 12 paperbacks of the Blue Hour for your book group. So there's a chance to once again win something, and it's going to be really interesting for you to read that book because something coming up in a couple of seconds. And we've got entered to win one of 25 copies of The Librarians of Lisbon by Suzanne Nelson. This book came out in January. It's doing extremely well. We want to make sure we got in front of book groups as well. Read it, see if this is something that you'd like to read with your book group. It's the contest is open until Wednesday, September 24th at noon Eastern time. So keep an eye on that one as well. On September 16th, next Tuesday evening, for anybody who has friends who work, or if you'd like to see an expanded presentation of everything that's happening this fall, perhaps a little recap of what we've already talked about and move forward. Special Bookaccino Live Fall Preview Evening event, September 16th at 8 o'clock. And our next Bookaccino Live event, book group event, will be with Naomi Neff, who will be discussing The Days I Loved You Most, which was a Book Reporter Bets On selection, which is now in paperback. The hardcover does look different from the paperback once again. So if you see it on your shelves and say, did I read that? Cover does look different. We're going to do this on Thursday, September 25th at 8 o'clock at night. And signups available on Book Reporter and reading group guides for this. And let's get ahead a little bit. Paul Hawkins is going to be discussing The Blue Hour, Book Reporter Bets on Selection, releasing in paperback on September 30th on Wednesday, October 2nd, 22nd at 8 p.m. Eastern. And sign up for this is available on tbrnetwork.com/events. And know that all our events can be found at tbrnetwork.com. tbrnetwork.com/events. So if you ever go like, what are they doing? What are these people doing? And we've actually planned out our whole fall. So you can go out there and see everything we've got planned. Some fun things lined up. Our next Bookaccino Live Book Preview afternoon event, which will be a preview of books releasing from October 7th through November 4th, and a peek ahead at December plus, oh my gosh, January 2026 will be on Wednesday, October 8th at 2 p.m. We're looking forward to seeing you there. And we thank you all for joining us. We hope you found books that you want to read, discuss with others, and tell your book clubs about. So thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Bookaccino Live.